describing the attack in graphic detail on the London radio station Phone-In. Let's listen now to a bit more of his account. A warning though, some of his descriptions of events are particularly shocking.
5 feet away there was a car, a blue Vauxhall, if I'm not mistaken, had crashed into like a signpost. To the left of the car, up the door, there was 2 guys we now know the victim on the floor. We thought they were like trying to help him. We thought he was involved in this crash or some sort. We thought they were helping him. Yeah. But next thing we understand, she let out an almighty scream. We then saw, looking out, we saw clearly 2 knives, a retriever, and when they were like being the pump jumped out the car, just shouted. I jumped out as well. One of the black guys went to the crashed car, got in the front, pulled out a bag, and pointed a gun. Shouted, my partner, get in the car, he's waving his gun around. I then moved the car up the road. I then got on the phone to the police, 999. Of course, they need armed response, they should need come here. These 2 guys are chopping these guys to pieces, literally hacking at something. These 2 guys were crazed. They just were not there. They were just animals. They dragged the poor guy. He was obviously dead. There's no way for a human to take that, what they did to him. They dragged him from the pavement and dumped his body in the middle of the road. And just left his body out. They then went back to the car. They're standing there, all with a knife in the hand, waving the gun about.
The Prime Minister David Cameron has now returned early from a meeting in Paris, and later this morning he will chair another meeting of COBRA. Our political correspondent Sophie Ridge is in Downing Street.
The priority for David Cameron will be to try and make sure the security services are quickly getting to the bottom of everything they can find out about the men involved in this attack, who they were, what motivated them, whether they were homegrown terrorists, if they were working in isolation or together with other terrorist groups, for instance. And that's why he decided to cut short his trip to Paris, where he was meeting with the French President Hollande, to try and make sure that he's really leading from the front in a situation that is clearly very distressing. The COBRA meeting, the emergency committee, has already taken place, discussed at that meeting with those very things. The Home Secretary Theresa May chaired the meeting. Also present was the London Mayor Boris Johnson, the Defence Secretary Philip Hammond, and also representatives from the Metropolitan Police and the security services. But David Cameron will want to chair a further COBRA meeting where he's going to be expecting an update on the situation, trying to find out more about exactly what happened and who the men were, and of course what the correct response is from the security services and also from politicians. What has become very apparent is that they do believe this is a terrorist attack.
Thanks, Sophie. Sophie Ridge there for us in Downing Street. Well, the shocking attack looks likely to be the first fatal terrorist attack on the British mainland since the 7/7 bombings in London in 2005. The immediate task for ministers and security officials alike will now be to assess the threat to the public and whether any other attacks are planned. The Sky's Home Affairs correspondent Mark White reports.
There's people lying in the road, there's a London Bus.
It's almost 8 years since the last successful terrorist attack in the UK. The London bombings killed more than 50 and wounded hundreds. Since then, other attacks have been attempted. Most have been foiled. None have resulted in deaths or injuries. Now, as police, security and government officials analyse the horrific events in southeast London, it looks increasingly likely we've witnessed the kind of homegrown terror attack they've been warning about for years.
If this is freelance, clean-skinned, sometimes called lone wolves, there are fewer contacts, there's a shorter planning period, there's no way of tracing back through various communications and contacts, and therefore they're much more difficult to counter.
The police and security services have been growing increasingly concerned about the emerging threat from homegrown radicals. Groups like these Birmingham men jailed last month, were planning an attack on the English Defence League. In the boot, they later found knives, swords, shotguns, and a homemade explosive device. None of those involved in the plan to attack the English Defence League had travelled abroad for terrorist training. They'd been self-radicalised and drew much of their inspiration from jihadist websites. And this is the real worry for the authorities. Just how do you thwart plots when those involved do little to draw attention to themselves?
These low-profile attacks, which perhaps just two people have conspired to do, are not generally picked up. And what is happening now, what is being seen is there is no communications. If we look at the attack on the Boston Marathon, those were two brothers, no internet communications, no way in which their signals could be picked up.
There is no apparent intelligence of another imminent attack, but a strong likelihood that other radicals will attempt to cause death and destruction at some point. Low-tech, unsophisticated plots may be an increasingly common threat in the years ahead. Mark White, Sky News.
Spring to other news now, and the court has heard of the alleged final moments before 5-year-old April Jones died. Mark Bridger broke down in tears as he described his frantic efforts to revive April with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation after he allegedly accidentally ran her over in his Land Rover. The schoolgirl went missing in Machynlleth last October. Bridger denies murdering and abducting her in a sexually motivated attack. Dale Cregan, who killed 2 police officers in Manchester, has also admitted to other murders. The 29-year-old changed his plea over the deaths of David and Mark Short. The father and son died in separate gun and grenade attacks last year. A man has appeared in court charged with murdering 4 soldiers in an IRA attack in central London back in 1982. 61-year-old John Anthony Downey is accused of a car bombing near Hyde Park, which killed the members of the Royal Household Cavalry and 7 horses as they travelled to Buckingham Palace. He was arrested at Gatwick Airport last Sunday. A man's been shot dead by FBI officers investigating the Boston Marathon bombings. 27-year-old Chechen Ibrahim Tadashiev is said to have become violent with police during an interview in Orlando, Florida. One FBI agent was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. To Oklahoma now, where residents are, of course, still reeling from the devastation caused by one of the biggest tornadoes in recorded history. More and riot police move in as up to 150 English Defence League supporters take to the streets of Woolwich to protest.
This is Sky News with Hannah Tallett.
Good morning. A sickening and appalling attack. The words of the Prime Minister after a man was hacked to death in broad daylight in southeast London. The victim, believed to be a serving British soldier, was attacked by 2 men on a busy street in Woolwich. Amazingly, the attackers spoke to eyewitnesses at the scene before armed police officers arrived and shot and injured them. Late last night, riot police tackled up to 150 English Defence League supporters who staged a protest in Woolwich over the incident. We'll get more on those clashes in a moment, but first, Sky's David Bowden has this report and a warning. It contains a distressing image of one of the attackers immediately after the incident, right from the very start.
This is one of the 2 men suspected of a savage murder, speaking into a passerby's camera. He's heard apologising that women have had to witness what had happened and urges onlookers to remove the government. And all of this in the middle of the afternoon in a southeast London suburb before armed police shot both suspects. It was witnessed by this man.
These 2 guys are chopping this guy to pieces, literally hacking at something like it's a big piece of meat. These 2 guys were crazed. They just were not there. They were just animals. They get in their chest, dragged the poor guy. He was obviously dead. There's no way a human could take that, what they did to him. They dragged him from the pavement and dumped his body in the middle of the road and just left his body there. They sent him back to the car. They're standing there, all with a knife in a hand, waving the gun about. I'm on the phone to the police, you need to get them here, where are they?
It appears the two attackers first knocked down their victim with this car before setting about stabbing him to death. We blurred part of the image because it's too graphic. The local people who rushed to help the dying man were confronted with the undiluted horror.
My friend and her mum walked up the hill. As she walked up the hill, she said, "Can I go help him?" And she went and sat next to the victim.
She said that to one of the two attackers?
Yeah.
And what was said then? What happened?
He said to her and to everyone else that was surrounding them, no man is coming near this body, only women.
All of it happened just around the corner from Woolwich Barracks. It soon became clear the victim was probably a soldier, and the killing part of a terror attack. The Prime Minister in Paris spoke resolutely.
The police and